She witnessed a gangster kill her husband, and then they dug a large hole, tossing both bodies into it. No one realized she was still alive. Her name was Brenner, a soldier with elite combat training. Brenner's husband, Dead, was a police officer. They were on their way to a vacation, but during the drive, a man in a truck made crude remarks toward Brenner and aggressively passed them. After a long stretch on the road, they stopped at a restaurant to take a break. While Dead went to the bathroom, Brenner sat alone at a table outside. At that moment, Butch, the man from the truck, reappeared and approached Brenner, continuing his harassment. This time, he was even more aggressive, using foul language to taunt her. Dead had just come out of the bathroom, and without hesitation, the two men began exchanging heated words. As things were about to escalate, an elderly woman in the restaurant intervened, stepping between them and pulling them apart. She glanced at Brenner and Dead, smiled, and remarked that the townspeople weren't accustomed to seeing such a cute couple like them. She then apologized on behalf of Butch. Dead thanked her for stepping in just in time and offered a warm expression of gratitude. The couple continued their drive, eventually finding a scenic spot in the forest to set up camp for the night. As they began settling in, a female police officer approached and started a conversation with Brenner. She cautioned them that the locals might be a bit strange and unfriendly toward outsiders, advising them to be careful if they planned to camp in the area. Grateful for the warning, the couple decided to go for a hike instead of staying to camp. After the police officer left, the couple continued their walk. Dead asked Brenner whether they should turn left or right, and she suggested they go left. As they followed that path, it suddenly started to rain. Just then, they stumbled upon a small cabin and decided to take shelter inside. There, they shared a romantic conversation about the weather, savoring the warmth of the moment together. While Dead was enjoying the romantic atmosphere, Brenner began exploring the cabin. As she entered another room, she stumbled upon a hidden compartment. When she opened it, she was stunned to find a large stash of ammunition inside, and a wave of fear instantly washed over her. Brenner quickly called Dead to see if anything outside seemed out of the ordinary. Dead also felt a sense of unease, and they both agreed that leaving immediately was their best option. But just as they were about to go, Butch suddenly struck from behind, knocking them unconscious with the butt of his gun. When they regained consciousness, they found themselves bound in a room. Butch continued to brutally torture Dead, forcing Brenner to watch the psychological torment. Overcome with desperation and fear, Brenner felt helpless. Just then, one of Butch's henchmen approached and revealed that Dead was a police officer, making their situation even more perilous. Butch briefly panicked, then walked into the room, looked directly at Dead. He confessed that he hadn't known Dead was a police officer and apologized for what he had done. "I owe you both an apology," he said. But moments later, Butch drew his gun and coldly shot both of them. He ordered his men to dispose of the bodies, and they dug a deep hole, tossing Dead and Brenner into it. The scene then shifts to a flashback, showing Brenner in the midst of her police training. It becomes clear that she is no ordinary woman, but a strong, formidable warrior, someone any enemy would fear. Back in the present, Brenner wakes up to find that everyone else has left. Miraculously, the bullets hadn't killed her. They only grazed her, leaving a deep wound that caused significant bleeding. As she regains consciousness, her first instinct is to check on her husband. Upon seeing that he's dead, Brenner gently covers his body with small branches, carefully concealing him. With a heavy heart, Brenner returns to their campsite, overwhelmed by pain and sorrow. She blames herself for his death, reminding herself that it was her idea to embark on this journey, leading to a tragic mistake. As memories of her true identity resurface, a fierce determination takes hold of her. She vows that the enemy cannot be allowed to survive. She will avenge her husband's death and take them all down. Brenner swiftly grabs an axe and begins walking, driven by a fierce determination to exact her revenge. Meanwhile, Butch returns to his mother's house, where he and his children continue their cruel harassment of a woman. In his typical brutish manner, Butch grabs her from behind and forces a kiss on her as she struggles to break free. The locals live in constant fear of Butch and his family's violent behavior. Butch and his family have kidnapped women, taking advantage of them as they pleased. Just then, Butch's mother appears, urging him to eat quickly because she has work for him to do. In that moment, Brenner, having crafted a sharp weapon from wood, swiftly attacks, killing one of Butch's henchmen. It's clear that she is not at ease with the brutality of her actions. After killing the first man and disposing of his body, she vanishes into the forest, her mission far from over. Later, Brenner presses on with her mission, finding a way to take down another man and severing the leg of another. However, instead of finishing him off, she watches him drag himself away, sparing him as an act of mercy, allowing him to flee from her pursuit. Afterward, Brenner sets a fire that engulfs one of Butch's key cabins, triggering a massive explosion. Moments later, we are introduced to Sheriff Hobbs, a man armed with a gun who hears the echoing blast and begins searching for the source of the explosion. Meanwhile, both Butch and his mother hear the explosion. Butch watches smoke rise from the direction of his cabin, a feeling of unease settling in. His mother urgently commands him to investigate. As he enters the forest, he finds one of his men gravely injured from Brenner's attack. Without hesitation, he helps his wounded comrade into the truck and speeds off. Later, we see Brenner lying silently in the back of her truck. When Butch returns and delivers the grim news to his mother about the deaths of several of their men, she erupts in fury. Furious, she scolds him harshly and slaps him for causing all this chaos. She demands that Butch find the outsiders, knowing they will need a stronger force to take on the situation. It turns out, Butch's mother has a vast network, with access to a wealth of information and resources. She meets with an old friend, a quiet, bookish man, and asks him to look into Brenner's background. As he scans through the records, he's stunned to uncover the truth. Brenner isn't just any woman, she's a former military operative. The revelation leaves Butch's mother visibly shaken. Meanwhile, Sheriff Hobbs ventures deeper into the woods and comes across the body of one of Butch's men. Without delay, he contacts the command center to report the grim discovery. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Brenner continues her preparations, meticulously setting traps to take down those hiding in the area. At the same time, Sheriff Hobbs' team arrives at the scene and discovers the body. One of the officers identifies it as a member of Mother's group. He explains that the entire forest falls under her control. Every action taken here is done with her approval. Known simply as Mother, she owns all the land in the region, and her influence runs deep. Troubled by the extent of her power, the sheriff requests a direct meeting with this formidable woman. A girl working at the command center quickly alerts Mother that Sheriff Hobbs is on his way to meet her. Unbeknownst to the sheriff, this girl is also on Mother's payroll. Soon after, a group of the sheriff's men arrives to report the bodies they found in the forest. Mother, however, offers no real explanation about what happened to her men. Instead, she feigns concern, pretending that someone had attacked her people. Calmly and without hesitation, she insists that the man found in the forest took his own life. Though Sheriff Hobbs clearly sees through the lie, he chooses not to challenge her, silently turning away and leaving with his team. That night, Mother and her children mourned the loss of their close companion, drowning their grief in alcohol before eventually passing out. Butch awoke sometime later, still heavily intoxicated and unaware of his surroundings. As he stumbled inside, Brenner was already there, waiting in the shadows. Without hesitation, she struck, slashing his throat in cold revenge for her husband's death. She stood silently, watching as he struggled to breathe, gasping for air, until his body finally gave out with the first light of morning. Brenner stayed concealed in the shadows, watching as one of Mother's men dragged a terrified girl into a room and locked her inside. It was then that Brenner realized she wasn't alone. Many other girls were being held captive in this place. Moved by a deep sense of compassion, she knew she had to help them escape this nightmare. Quietly, she slipped into the room, working to free the imprisoned girls. But fear had paralyzed them, and they hesitated to move. Suddenly, one of the girls let out a scream of warning, and within moments, an armed guard burst in and opened fire on the group. One of the girls was struck by a bullet and died instantly. But Brenner, drawing on her elite combat training, swiftly neutralized the attacker with precision and efficiency. Wasting no time, she took a girl named Emily and led her deep into the forest to hide. Meanwhile, Mother was informed of Butch's death and the escape of all the captive girls. Overcome with grief, she lost control, devastated by the loss of her son. Fueled by rage, she ordered her men to find Brenner at all costs, mobilizing every available man and unleashing the hounds to begin an all-out hunt. Deep in the forest, one of Mother's men stumbled upon Brenner's hideout, but before he could react, he triggered a trap she had carefully set and was killed instantly. Another man followed shortly after, only to be swiftly gunned down by Brenner. That night, Brenner and Emily sat quietly together, sharing a rare moment of peace beneath the stars. Emily opened up, revealing she was pregnant and terrified especially of what her mother might do if she found her. Brenner listened calmly and gently promised to protect her, vowing to help her escape and begin a new life. Meanwhile, Mother had unleashed her most ruthless tracker hunk, who led a vicious pack of hunting dogs into the forest, determined to hunt Brenner down. The next morning, Emily was captured, but Brenner arrived just in time, taking down her captors with lethal precision. Nearby, Sheriff Hobbs had also arrived on the scene. Before he could intervene, one of Hunk's men shot him in the leg, but Brenner spotted the attacker and quickly took him out with a clean shot. Wasting no time, Brenner and Emily helped the wounded sheriff to safety. As they regrouped, Brenner warned him that unless they began misleading the enemy, they would continue to swarm every location they touched, making the fight far more difficult. Brenner and Emily decided it was time to leave their hiding spot. They followed the creek through the dense forest until they came across the same female officer who had once warned Brenner and her husband. Desperate and exhausted, they asked for her help. She told them to get in the car, and the two women, drained from their ordeal, quickly fell asleep in the back seat. But when they awoke, their relief turned to horror. They were surrounded by Mother and her men. The officer had betrayed them. She had been secretly working for Mother all along, accepting bribes to stay loyal. The group began torturing them, and during the torment, Emily broke down and confessed to Mother that she was pregnant with Butch's child. The moment Mother heard Emily's confession, she coldly ordered her men to take the girl to another room. Meanwhile, Brenner was dragged into a cell, bound and left to await her torture. But Emily, seizing a rare moment of courage, smuggled in some food and used the opportunity to kill the unsuspecting guard. She quickly freed Brenner, and the two made their way to the main room where Mother and her men were gathered. Chaos erupted as a brutal fight broke out. Brenner fought with unrelenting fury, taking down each attacker with precision. But just as the tide turned, Mother grabbed Emily and pressed a blade to her throat, forcing Brenner to freeze and demanding she drop her weapon. In the midst of the chaotic struggle, a man lunged at Brenner from behind, while Mother swiftly slashed Emily's throat. Brenner fought off her attacker, but when she reached Emily's side, she was met with the heartbreaking reality: the young girl was already dead. The scene shifts 3 months later to Mother, sitting in her garden when she receives a chilling message: Judgment Day. In that instant, she's struck by a fatal shot to the head. From her hidden vantage point in the forest, Brenner watches, her revenge for her husband finally complete. She turns and walks away, leaving the bloodshed behind. The screen fades to black, and the film ends. Thank you for watching.